Okay, so let's do some vocabulary. And this is going to be vocabulary for expressions, and this is how I use an and. It's kind of like a plus, and equations. And I'll abbreviate equations, just EQ. So this is vocabulary for expressions and equations. Okay, our first word will be constant. And what is a constant? It's basically, now I'm going to abbreviate, a number without a variable. Remember, a variable is just a letter. It's a number without a variable. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and write an equation here. Come on, get with it here. Okay, let me get together. We got my different colors here. So I'm going to have this. 3x plus 2. And this constant is actually this number right here. That is the constant in this expression. This is called an expression, and this is the constant. And I don't need to write that right now. Okay, next word is E, and then a double F, kind of like coffee. It reminds me of the word coffee. I-C-I-E-N-T, coefficient. Coefficient. Now, coefficient is actually this right here. This number right there. That is a coefficient. And what is a coefficient? It's basically a number with a variable. It's a number with a variable. And you can see how this is a number with a variable. And when I say with, that really what's happening is, in this situation, it's multiply. Multiply. In other words, it's 3 times x. So this right here is actually 3 times x. So coefficient is a number next to a letter, next to a variable. It's a number with a variable. And this is actually times. 3 times x. That's a constant. That's a variable. I'm sorry. That's a constant. The letter's a variable. This is a coefficient. Okay, I'm just gonna kind of separate this a little bit. And there's a couple of other words. We have equation. And if you want to spell it out, you can. Equation. And then over here, we have expression. So I want to show you the difference between the two of them. And it's basically this. An equation Let me just go ahead and write one first. We have 2x plus 6 equals 12. And for an expression, just this, 2x plus 6. These are examples. This is an equation. This is almost an equation, but notice it's missing something. Right? It's missing an equals. Equals 12. It's missing an equals. See, an equation, it has an equals. An expression, no equals. All right, so that's just my simplified version of that. Okay, let's concentrate on the word equation for a moment. An equation, there's a word that you'll always or mostly see with equation, and that word is solve. S-O-L-V, solve. That didn't come out very good. Let me just write that larger. Solve. What does that mean, solving? That means find the value for x. Find the value for x to make equation EQ true. Find the value for x to make the equation true. In other words, what number is this supposed to be to make this left side equal to 12? That's what solve means. Find the value for x to make the equation true. Actually, it should be solve for variable, but in this case, it's just x. So this is what you'll see when we deal with equations. Solve it. Find the answer for x. Find the number. What about with expressions? There's a word that we'll be using, especially today, and that word is evaluate. Evaluate. And what evaluate means is to substitute. Plug in. Substitute. Substitute, excuse me, I'll just work with what's going on here. I'm running out of room. Help me. Substitute a number for the variable, or for x. You can say for the variable or just say x. Substitute a number for the variable. In other words, plug a number in here. They're going to tell you what number to put in here. And then you find the answer. You simplify it after that. And many times it will be written like this. So let's say we have 2x plus 6. And then they'll say if x equals 5. Sometimes we'll put a little semicolon in there. 2x plus 6 if x equals 5. Evaluate it. What does that mean? You take the number, plug it in there. So we have 2, and then this number right here, x is 5, you plug it in, you substitute it. And find that total. So 2 times 5 plus 6. 2 times 5 is 10. So the answer is 16. See, we evaluated it, but they tell you what number to plug in there. They'll tell you what to put in there. All right, now there's a reason why we're practicing all this, and let me just show you. You won't have to write this, what I'm about to show you. Okay, this is what you'll do in ninth grade. This is actually taken from my son's ninth grade algebra book. And look, here's the problem. First of all, you're supposed to construct and graph the sequence described. A taxi charges $2 per ride plus $3 for each mile driven. And so the equation for that is whatever the function is equals 3n plus 2. And they're saying, hey, look, okay, well then you got to graph this. What happens if the person rides for 1 hour? I'm sorry, it's $3 for each mile. So for each mile, all right, so for each mile. So what happens is it for 1, 2, 3, and 4 miles? How much is it going to cost? All right, so what you do is you plug the number in there for the variable. And so if I do that, if I put a 1 in there for the letter N, 3 times 1 is 3 plus 2 is 5. If I put a 2 in there, that makes 6 plus 2 is 8. If I put a 3 in there, 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 is 11. If I put a 4 in there, 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 is 14. Now I have my points. This is the x and this is the y. So I put those points in here, 5, 8, 11, and 14, and then I graph these points. I graph these points right here, and it looks like this. And notice it's a straight line. And so if I was to draw a straight line going through this, and notice that it doesn't go through the origin, it goes right there. So this is not proportional, but this is what it would be. And so this is a case in when you will have to solve expressions or evaluate expressions. Plug a number in and get a value. All right, just a couple more things that I'd like to put in here for you for reference. And so when you see something like this, 7a, that is 7 times a, right? Hopefully you know that, but just a reminder. If you see a to the third power, that is the same as a times a times a. All right, it's 3 a's. If you see something like 3 squared, that is 3 times 3, right? It's 3 twice. If you see 4x to the third, that's 4 times x to the third. That's 4 times x times x times x. All right, so this, you may have already known this, but just to refresh your memory on it. So when it comes time to plug a number in here, if the number's 2, it's not 72, it's 7 times 2. Okay. Okay, so hopefully this will help you as we go along through expressions and equations. And I put these two at the very top because you'll be referring to these a lot. Constant and coefficient.